Mr. Girl wants me to call you. You don't think that's like a pretty obvious thing?
Maybe. And here's the thing, though. Here's why I think it's not fair, okay? When that happened...
Wait, to be specific, why what's not fair? Just so I know what we're talking about.
This kind of like, big tech said to report, Mr. Girl got banned, and so it's like, gotcha. And here's why I say it's not fair. Ever since that happened, I came out and said, yeah, we don't support that. We disavow. Even all the other Groypers, Beardson and Brittany came on your show, and they're like, yeah, we don't support that. That's terrible. I came on your stream and said we don't support that. And if you finish the video, I said at the end, because I said, look, I said, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I said, if you really are concerned about Groypers flagging, like that's happening, I said, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, fair enough. I'll take your word for it then. And I said, here, you want rules of engagement? I said, sure. If going forward, any Groypers are reporting you or your friends, they're banned from AFPAC, they're admonished, and you can tell me, here's where it's, here's where I'm putting my money where my mouth is, so to speak. If you or other people see, oh, so-and-so's flagging Mr. Girl, tell me, and they will be sanctioned. They'll pay a price for it. Because what I'm trying to say is, we don't support that. He did that at 3 a.m. or something on a stream that I didn't even see. He gets like 80 viewers or whatever, and I was unaware of that. Well, then Mr. Girl gets banned, and you're like, oh, well, the Groypers got him, and he's part of your community. It's like, I get where you're coming from, but I can't go back in time, and
yeah, sure. So like, let's be a little bit clear about everything, okay? So, what was the accusation that I made?
You said that. Well, what you texted me on Discord is, it's your community, matey, and basically saying that I'm culpable.
Well, hold on. Did I say that?
You literally said, it's your. I said, you're blaming me for something someone else said. You said it's your community, matey. That's what you said.
Yes. So what am I saying there? Am I saying that like this is let's be a little sophisticated in our understanding. Am I saying that like you called for him to be reported, or that you led for his mass banning? Because you say that a few times in this video. You're making it sound like I'm saying that you specifically called for this. I've never levied that accusation, though.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're saying that.
That's kind of the implication I've gotten from watching. I could go back and watch clips, but it kind of feels like in the beginning of this video that you're saying that I've accused you of that several times, because I have to pause and correct and say I've never accused Nick directly of doing it. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't.
Okay, that's good. I don't believe that's what you said in this video, but okay.
No, I didn't. If that was the impression you got, I didn't intend for it to come off that way. But
okay.
you also
saying, go ahead.
Yeah, you said that like part of why you didn't want to do the JFK debate is you said, well, if I engage with my new friends and they're reporting my old friends, that I'm worried about that. That's not really so good. And what I'm trying to say is you shouldn't be worried about that, because from the moment I learned that Mr. Girl was making that accusation, when he said, oh, look, the Groypers reported me, I said, WTF, we didn't report you. And then when you sent me the big tech thing, I said, no, we don't support that. I said I want him on YouTube, and I came on your stream, and everyone came on your stream, and I said, yeah, we don't support that. So point is, like, if it wasn't clear before, I've made it clear now. We're not in favor of that. And we were not, I was not encouraging that. I was unaware that big tech did that.
Sure, that's fine. So let's. So it's so weird to talk to you, because I don't know. I never know like what mode you're in. Okay, so.
But what do you mean, what mode? What does that mean? I'm just
you speak politically a lot, right? So
what does that mean? How am I being political?
As in, I'm trying to peel off your fucking reptile skin, okay? Get to the human underneath.
Speech.
No. We're not talking about. We're going through this schizoid stuff. If we back up, we take an overview of everything, okay? I'm going to give you the macro picture that I see, all right? Okay. Ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. Turn off the politics reptile brain for a second, okay? Let's just look at the macro picture for a second, okay? Got it?
Okay. Got it.
Okay. You guys just recently came out of a huge fucking fight with Metacruise community over supporting Ralph flagging videos, yeah?
Well, I mean, that was like 6 months ago.
Sure, but it was a big fight. I don't know if it was 6 months ago. Wasn't it like 3 months ago? Am I wrong?
It was in late April.
What month are we in now? April, May, June,
September.
July, August, September. Okay, all right, 4 or 5 months ago. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not that recent. But
no, it's pretty recent. It was like the last huge event, huge drama that I think you guys were involved in, right? That I can remember.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So there was that thing. I know in the past you've made fun of me when my accounts have gotten banned. Now we've gone back and forth on this, sure. So like this
was like years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I probably made fun of you when you got banned back then too. Yeah, but there's that.
You did.
Okay.
You got me banned on Twitch.
That's not true. I don't know why that keeps being said, but that's not true.
You reported me in the after the train wrecks debate.
No. People have said that, but if you go back and you look at the clips, anytime I'm reporting you, my background is when I lived in Omaha. After the train wrecks debate, I believed I was already in Glendale, and I'm not calling for bans or reports after that. That Mio guy reported that, or repeated that claim, but that's not true. If you go back and you look at that, you should tell where I live because you can look at my background. That's not true. After that, I was already off that deplatforming shit when we had that debate.
I'm pretty sure there's a clip where you go in and you're like, and I'll have to verify. Point being, I guess it's irrelevant. It's ancient.
Well, sure, you can go back, you can verify. The only reason why I take particular issue with this, because there have been points in my history where I've been in favor of deplatforming. That absolutely has happened. Right. But the reason why I'm particularly irritated about this claim is because I think after I did that debate with Train, you, and Hassan and Sargon, and then I did another one with another right-leaning guy, that right-leaning guy also got banned immediately from Twitch. And I remember being very fucking irritated that day because it seemed like anytime I would debate somebody, Twitch would ban them. And I specifically complained about that on stream. It makes me look bad. It makes it so that I can't debate anybody, and it's just a shitty overall appearance. I need that to not happen. But that I remember complaining about that, and I wasn't pro deplatforming because it was fucking my debate content up. But okay, so the macro thing, okay? We've got the bans in the past. We've got the whole Ralph drama. Then when Mr. Girl gets banned, okay, you guys are literally spamming anti-Semitic shit on his Twitter.
Well, and then I mean, you can say that, but it's just his face.
No, it's... Okay, I need you to turn off politics mode. I know what it is. I'm not a fucking moron, okay? It's a smiling merchant guy, right?
It's a little bit keck, though, that he looks like...
Yeah, it's funny. It is funny. Yeah, there's a lot of racist and anti-Semitic humor that's funny, but it is anti-Semitic, okay? We gotta be on the same page. You're obviously drawing parallels to the fucking smiling merchant guy. You can say that it's funny, that's fine, but it's still anti-Semitic. But regardless, I see you guys kind of like laughing and celebrating, and then I'm starting to get clips of you being on some guy's stream, Veda or whatever, where they start going through his songs. Then I get other clips of Big Tech looking at his stream, and he's literally saying shit like we're gonna flag all these guys. Well, now I gotta take a step back. It's like, okay, well, this is a community that has a history of fighting over deplatforming. The guys celebrated my deplatforming a long time ago, to be fair. And then I see that when Mr. Girl gets deplatformed, you guys are celebrating it. And then I'm getting clips of people on your platform that are specifically calling for mass flaggings. In the totality of that, when I step back and I look at things, now, firstly, I've never said I'm never going to interact with you again. I didn't even say I was totally canceling the JFK debate, just that I want to put it on ice for a little bit. You have to understand from my point of view that I can't just keep throwing myself headlong into these things when it feels like your community is got artillery shells firing at people in my friend group. You've got to understand that, right? I don't think that that's that ridiculous of a position.
Yeah, and like I said this on the show last night. I said, I get where you're coming from. I understand all of that. But what I'm saying is, in fairness, I feel like you gotta be a little bit charitable towards me and recognize that, what has happened since Mr. Girl got banned. I went out of my way on my Telegram to say unambiguously, I said, and let me scroll up in case I'm sure.
Well, hold on. When did you say this, though?
I said this on Monday.
On the 4th?
On the 5th.
On the 5th? What happened on the 4th? We had our huge conversation. So this was after you'd already spammed anti-Semitic shit on his Twitter, and it wasn't until it looked like you were going to lose your connection to me that you were like, oh, I just want you guys to know that I totally disavow this particular behavior, right?
Well, yeah, but hang on, because you came on and said, you said, this is, my friends, I take it as an act of disrespect and so on and all this. I thought it was funny that he got banned because he's going on the stream and saying, he's using his platform to lie about me and say, oh, you want to kill everybody, you're a Nazi. Now, I never reported him. I never mass flagged him. And I know what you're saying, a guy on my website did.
Yeah, let's get away from that. So real quick, don't don't ever say that to me again, okay? I don't care.
Say what?
That you didn't do it personally. That's baby talk, right? If somebody was accusing my community of doing something horrible, and I would just keep saying, well, I didn't do it, well, that neither of us are concerned with that, obviously, right? Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I know that you didn't personally do it.
Yeah, but you are holding me accountable.
Yes, but I'm holding you accountable for
our debate.
But for your community, much the same way that I hold myself accountable for my community, or I've held Vosh accountable for his community. That doesn't mean that I'm making a direct accusation against that person doing it, but you are the thought leader, some might say, of America First. So of course I'm going to hold you to account for trends of thought in that community. Not that I'm blaming you particularly for it, but it's something that I would hope would change.
I just think that's unfair, because it's like, there's 50 streamers on my site, and one of them, who is not even one of the bigger streamers, who's not even somebody that I really, and I'm not trying to throw the guy under the bus. I'm being honest. We don't talk. That guy's not, big tech. He's feuded with a lot of the Groypers. He's not really popular among the Groyper streamers. Because I would understand if it was like if Dalton or Tyler, some of these other guys that are a little bit closer did that. But you're talking about a guy who's really kind of on the margin of Groyper or non-Groyper, 1 out of 50. And it's like, again, what is the expectation? Like, I can't go back in time and say, hey, well, don't flag Destiny's friends.
Wait, hold on. I need you. You're a smart guy, Nick. I've called you smart. I've gotten shit for it, okay? We need to get off the political bullshit, okay? I'm not asking you to go back in time, okay?
Yeah, well, what do you... But that's...
Cozy isn't...
Well,
Cozy...
Hang on.
Yeah.
But I'm asking what is the expectation? Because since that happened, and since we were accused, because I wasn't even aware of the big tech thing, okay? Because when Mr. Girl posted... and he said, oh, the evidence that I was flagged by Groypers is here. There was no evidence that Groypers flagged him from what he posted. It was my Telegram where I said,
and you can take issue with things Mr. Girl has said or whatever.
Well, wait, but so I replied to that, and I said, I had no idea what he was talking about. I said, WTF, we didn't flag you down. I wasn't even aware of the big tech thing. Now, when I became aware of the big tech thing, that's when you started saying, oh, the Groypers did, because I found this clip. And from the moment I became aware of that, when I saw it on your stream, I texted you and said, hey, dude, I didn't know about that. We didn't support that. And I said on my channel, coincidentally, the night before, that we want him on YouTube. And then I came on your stream, and so did Brittany, and so did Beardson, and we all said, hey, none of us support that. And then I went on my Telegram and said, yeah, we don't support that. So I'm saying, what's the expectation if that happens? If somebody says, oh, flag Mr. Girl, and Mr. Girl gets banned, and if I then learn about it and right away say, oh, no, we don't support that. If I say to Big Tech's face, yeah, I don't agree with you, and I disavow people that do that, and then I go on Telegram and make an official, look, we're not doing that, and then I said on my show last night, if you do that, we're sanctioning you.
Sure. Okay, all of this is fine. You're building... No, yeah, I understand, okay? And I'm meeting you, okay? I'm walking 80%, okay? But it seems like the impetus for this change was me pulling back a little bit. That's where the impetus of this change came from. If I would have just continued forward and not said anything, I don't know if you would have made a statement about deplatform. I think you guys would have just continued to spam anti-Semitic memes at him and have been celebrating. Yeah?
Well, I mean, yeah, we would have ratioed him, but that's different than flagging him.
Sure, but I mean also, but also, like, you wouldn't have made any statements about flagging him. Which, by the way, I appreciate the statements. Those are like, I think that's good. I want people to not do that on my side or your side or anything. So my goal is to just see that trend of thought of like, we need to utilize all weapons in the holy jihads and fucking online, is to get rid of the deplatforming shit from every fucking community, whether it's yours or mine. Well, sure, which is good. You made statements about it. That's fine. I'm okay. The only issue, though, is, okay, also backing up to a couple things. Just a couple things I want to just like hammer out real quick. When you're saying things like, oh, well, this is like a random streamer on my website, okay, don't you guys have to approve every single person that goes on that website? It's not like random people can sign up. Like, I'm pretty sure you sign off on all of them. No?
Well, yeah, but does that mean I sign off on everything? Because you said, well, it's your community. It's like, well, Aiden Projects is on my site. Is like,
sure,
Aiden
but
Project
hold on,
part
but
of my community?
Well, maybe, but if you have a website that you run and you're personally signing off on every single streamer there, which I know you do, that's changes a little bit. It's not like they're streaming on YouTube in the same community, or it's not like they're streaming on Twitch. They're on a website that was started by and for largely Nick Fuentes, that 80% of the content on that site revolves around Nick Fuentes, and Nick Fuentes personally approves streamers that are also gripers streaming that website. So I think it's okay when people are acting fucky on there to look at you and go, hey, you got to get your people in line. Much the same way that if people were acting out in my subreddit, on my DGG chat, that like I would probably need to wrangle them in. If people on my subreddit or if people on my Discord were organizing like doxing campaigns, I think I would personally be responsible for that. I would need to do something about that. I would feel some level of responsibility. Right? That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I would just dispute that because it's a platform. So
but it's not an open platform, and it's relatively exclusive to Griper.
Well, but it's not. The reason why it's not open is not because it's only people that are ideologically consistent with me, because there's a lot of people that are not ideologically consistent with me on the site. Most of them are similar, but the intention of Cozy is to be a free speech platform, and ultimately to have people that don't agree, and there even are people that are not in full agreement.
Sure,
so,
and I'm sure there are. But regardless, I'm just saying I don't want if that platform is like loading up like doxing or like deplatforming campaigns.
Oh, come on! It's just that's where I say it's bad faith, because.
Wait, you don't think it would be fair for me if let's say there were multiple streamers on your site that got 50 plus viewers that were on that site saying what Big Tech had said, that I'd be like, I don't know if I want to like engage with that or support that. I think I want to take a step back. You don't think that'd be a fair position for me to take?
If I'll give you a counterexample.
Yeah.
If Rose Wrist or I don't know, somebody smaller went on YouTube and streamed and said, hey, well, you can't report me from anything, but hey, report so-and-so, let's say I am on there, or somebody I know is on there, and then you came out and said, oh yeah, I don't support that, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, it's you're responsible for that guy saying that. I just, again, I understand
what you're saying there. I understand what you're saying, and I'm empathetic towards that, but I think I would do that. So like, I've been friends with that. Do you know who Socked on Left is on Twitter?
No.
I've been friends with that guy for a long time. He started tweeting out a huge thread to get Sneeko banned on YouTube, and I blocked him on Twitter. I don't associate with that guy anymore, because people that call for bans like that or call for deployment, I won't associate with them anymore. I do that. And when I see people doing it, I do cut them off. So I do hold myself to that standard. Like if I were to start bringing him on stream to have him talk about that and give those arguments, and when Roserist came on, I don't think Roserist was here telling me to deplatform you, or he was encouraging people to spam report your
I was using that as an example.
No, sure, I know. But I'm saying that if he did, I probably wouldn't associate with him either, because I don't support that type of like mass deplatforming, mass flagging shit on lat. I just don't do it.
Okay, well then I said on my show, if you finish the video, I said the same thing. If people are doing that, then I'm admonishing them, I'm disavowing them, they're banned from the conference, they're gonna be sanctioned by me. And in the case of Big Tech, he came on the stream and we all said, hey, we don't agree with that.
Sure, yeah, and I agree, and I understand, and that's cool.
And so going forward, I'm not going to do that to him. I'm not going to do that to him, because if he didn't know that, he apologized. He said he's not going to do it. If he does it again, I will unfollow him. I won't appear on a stream with him.
Sure, and I'm not here telling you. First of all, I'm never going to tell you how to run your shit. I'm not going to say you need to ban this guy, blah blah blah. I don't care about that. I just want to see that general thought on the internet change, at least in the communities that I have any influence on. And by influencing, like I said, yeah. So that's number one. Okay. Number two, I don't like that the approach that you have for a lot of my thoughts, the conspiratorial brain that you have leaks out when you try to explain my actions. And in some senses, you either just completely lie about the things I do, or you ascribe this really weird intent, okay? So broadly speaking, if I wanted to stop associating with you, you know that I wouldn't do that in a sneaky way. I'd be super public about it, because I would get a ton of support and love for doing that. Why would I ever do that in like a sneaky way?
It's not my conspiratorial brain. It's not, because you're confusing a couple of different things. It's just that sometimes people say something, and that's not, and maybe they're lying to themselves, or maybe they're not fully representing it. But I don't think that you need a conspiracy Alex Jones mind to say that sometimes people don't say what they mean. And in your case, if I go on into the show to say that, and you've said this on your stream, the reason that we're doing, you say this. You say the reason that we're doing this is because you get a bigger stream when we collaborate. You say that you're trying to persuade my audience and win over my audience, and you recognize that I'm trying to persuade your audience, and so on. And so I said, I said, because you're right. You could just disavow me and all that. I said, but I think that you going out there potentially and making a big stink about somebody else saying something about somebody else is because, you don't want to burn the bridge, but you want to, like you yourself said, put it on ice. You want to cool it off.
Sure, temporarily while I figure out what's going with the Mr. Girl stuff. But
right.
I'm very public about all of that. None of this is sneaky behind the things stuff. If I wanted to axe our connection for reasons related to because I think you were saying, I think even in this video, he thinks that I'm winning the debate. Let's imagine my mind, okay? Because what I'm arguing is I have a different mind state, okay?
A mind.
Yeah.
Destiny.
Let's argue a different mind of mine. Let's say that I had the mind to wanting to cut a connection with you. Now, if we imagine that is my mind state, the actions that I would take in that mind state are going to be so much different than these actions, right? I'd make a huge public post on my subreddit. I'd probably talk about it on stream, so I can make 1 or 2 YouTube videos about it. I get a ton of love and support from my community. I'd probably unban everybody that was critical of me about it. And then I get a whole bunch of people basically congratulating me for having an open mind, for being responsible with my platforming, for coming around and doing the right thing and being reflective and introspective and all that. That's what I would do if I was trying to disavow. Why would I ever do that in a sneaky manner? That doesn't make any sense, because I'm missing out on so much potential.
You're not engaging with what I said. What I said is, I don't think your intention is to burn the bridge here. I said that all I said is I find it to be, I'm skeptical. I think it's spurious when you say, oh, well, the reason I'm chilling it is just because of this Mr. Girl thing. I said, I think it's weak because.
Well, what else would it be?
I just said, because you don't want to burn the bridge, but maybe you just want to cool it off for the time being, and that's a convenient sort of way to say, oh, well, I'm not cooling it off for some other reason.
Well, wait, why wouldn't I just...
Well, I'm worried about deplatforming.
Wait, what other reason would I be cooling it off for if not the Mr. Girl thing?
Because when we do these collaborations, it is helping me, and people have pointed that out, and you're getting criticized for that. And I understand what you're saying, that you could redeem yourself from that criticism by burning the bridge. And I don't think you're worried about that criticism. Like you said, you said you're not worried about, burning your relationship.
Yeah, but again, look at you've got me. I'm having.
Are you gonna let me explain myself? Why you gotta interrupt me?
I'm just because you're giving me so many different thoughts.
I'm really not. I'm just explaining. You're asking me, well, what's the motivation? I'm telling you. I'm in the process of telling you.
Okay, well, you're saying in some extent, I'm just saying you're saying so many contradictory things. I don't understand how I can think all these things. So on one end, I'm not worried about the criticism I'm getting. But if that's the case, I got 14,000 viewers streaming. Why the fuck would I cool that relationship then if I'm getting a ton of viewership on it? So I'm either am worried about the criticism or I'm not. You can't have it both ways, because it seems like you're having to have it both ways to describe what are completely contradictory actions in your worldview, where I am trying to back away from you because you're growing too much or something, right? It doesn't make sense.
Again, it's not because of the criticism. It's just because of it's because I think you see that, for example, when we're talking about 9/11, that's not really a winning issue for you to be going on stream night after night and talking about 9/11 or talking about the JFK assassination. I just think and now maybe you're being honest, and I said maybe you're being good faith, but it just seems weak, in my opinion, for you to say, well, the reason I'm backing out of this debate is because, we try to talk about 9/11, which is not even really true if you get into that part of the video. And then you also say this thing about, well, I'm worried about, this deplatforming thing. To me, it just sounds like a weak reason. It sounds weak. It sounds like it's not a very strong excuse, and that's, to me, why it sounds like an excuse. Now, to get into your mindset, again, I'm speculating, is it because you want to chill it off because this is such a big thing, and Mr. Girl's getting on there and saying, look, you're helping Nick Fuentes become the biggest Nazi in America and all this. And while you might not be worried about that people are saying it, you may be worried about the thing in itself. And again,
okay, so going over this,
I'm just skeptical.
Yeah, I know you're saying you're skeptical, but none of your reasoning makes any sense. So when you say that you think the 9/11 thing isn't a winning issue, I think I did 3 or 4 huge streams on research for that. I think I had 8,000 to 9,000 viewers the entire time. Those were hugely positive streams for me. And when I went to talk about it with you or Sneeko, I felt like I did very good in both of those discussions. So I think that those were both massively winning things for me. Now, we haven't done the JFK thing yet because I haven't sat down to do however many days of researching for that. But the idea that I did the 9/11 thing and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to cool the bridge off, that's just totally incongruent with everything that happened. My viewership was huge. I got a lot of donations. I felt really good about the conversations, and I learned a lot doing it. This sounds like a cope. I just don't like you. I think that all of your reasonings here are inconsistent. They don't line up with the facts of what had happened. And if we were to go all the way back to the beginning, and if we were to just say simply, Destiny's probably worried that a new community he's associating with is targeting a friend of his, that 100% explains every single action I've done, like flawlessly. Like, let me ask you this. Let's say that was the case. Let's say that I'm just worried that like my friends are catching strays from me associating with your community. Has there been a single action that I've taken that's been inconsistent with that line of thought?
I don't know. I would have to think about that. But
well, think about it. Let's think. We got we got time right now. Think about it. Think for a second. Think of all the things I've said, all the things I've done. Has there been a single thing that's been inconsistent with that train of thought? Where I'm just worried about my friends like catching strays.
No, not necessarily.
Okay, now if you agree with that, now on the other mindset where I'm trying to deplatform you and blah, 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 okay, now I don't want to blow up our secret communications, but just recently, did I not connect you with the largest figure that you'll probably ever be connected with in your life to potentially do another huge debate? Why the fuck would I send you something like that if I'm trying to deplatform you?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
So yeah, I don't know if your conspiratorial mind is like, I feel like it leaks out into other things, but clearly my actions are not congruent with the mental state that you're ascribing me. I don't think that's the case.
It's not conspiratorial. Like I said, if you watch the whole stream,
I'm working on it. I'm only 20 minutes in, but we've already made a lot of...
And I'm saying, yeah, you're 20 minutes in. What I said on the stream is, and I put it up to the audience because I said, I'm not sure.
Well, but you're making other statements.
Like, I finish a fucking point?
Yeah, go for it. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Go ahead.
Holy. So I said on the stream, I put it up to the audience. I said, look, I don't know. I said, maybe I'm just being paranoid. I said, maybe I'm just being, whatever. I said, I tend to trust my gut, but you tell me if I'm wrong. You tell me what you think. And what I said is this. I said, maybe you're telling the truth and maybe you are worried. I said, but I just feel like he's making an excuse. I said, and here's potentially why he's doing that. And the reason why I think that is because it's a weak, the reason that you gave about the 9/11 thing just didn't make any sense. And the latter about the Mr. Girl thing, to me, that also comes across as weak. I said, now maybe it's true, but to me it just seems like that's just a convenient excuse. Now, it's the reason why it's a convenient excuse is because it's plausible. It's plausible, but maybe the timing's convenient, and you're right. Do I have a perfect explanation? No, but I can't get in your head and figure out if you say something but mean something else. I can't know exactly what that is. And you're right. What you reached out to me does contradict that. And I said at the end, and this is, I think, a way that we can resolve this. At the end of the stream that you're watching right now, I said, look, if Destiny's telling the truth and he's worried about the deplatforming, I said, and the so-called rules of engagement, I said, I'll make it clear right now, and I said it on my show last night. I said, if that's the real concern, and I'll take you at your word and give you the benefit of the doubt, then if anybody's calling for mass flagging, then they're banned from AFPAC. I disavow them. What I just told you, I said, and to me, that is an adequate framework. I said, and if you wanna wait, if you wanna wait for things to cool for a minute, that's fine. But and that's when I ask, what's the expectation? Mm-hmm. To me, that's a more than reasonable framework to say that if that's a concern, well, here's a way to ameliorate that concern. I'm coming out and saying that I stand against that, and there's accountability, because if people can show me videos where people on my site are doing that, then I can enforce that against them and say, you're going to get punished for it. You're going to get ostracized in my community. There's going to be problems. And so if that's your concern, well, that's a reasonable framework that addresses that. So
I understand. Okay, I understand. Okay, we're doing a lot of... Sure, we're going. Okay. Have you ever heard of... somebody brought this to my attention. They made a really good Reddit post of this. Have you ever heard of like Bayes' rule or like a Bayesian inference?
No.
Okay. This is the way that I reason things out. I'm going to explain this in 2 seconds, okay? This is how I reason things out. I understand not everybody does this, but this is how I like to think, okay? So there's an overall chance of something to happen, right? We can call it a prior probability. And then there's like the likelihood of something happening based on more information that we gather about that particular thing. Let me see if I can give an example. If I tell you that like a pig fell from the sky and crushed a woman and killed her, right? When you're trying to evaluate if that statement is true or not, the first thing you think of is, well, how many times have pigs fallen from the sky? Very, 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 very rare, almost zero. So your initial starting prior probability is going to be almost zero. It's going to be very, very low. And then you think, well, what's the likelihood of that? Well, let's say they were in the middle of New York City. Like, there's no chance you're going to believe this, right? But maybe they were at a function where you launch pigs with catapults. Well, even if it's really unlikely for it to happen initially, well, if they're at an event where they're launching pigs with catapults, okay, sure. Maybe that you start to update your prior quite a bit, and then you have at the very end, you've got, okay, well, there's a decent probability of something. Okay, sorry, that's just like my mind for how I evaluate things, how I figure out like what the probability of things are happening for. Now, when you talk about the probability of me lying, okay, when I look at when we look at our priors here, we think about, well, how many times has Destiny lied publicly about what he believes? I feel like that prior should start very low. I am very honest about a lot of what I believe. Very honest about the Rittenhouse thing, very honest about the trans athlete thing. I've been honest about a lot of issues that get me into a lot of hot water. And then when we look at this specific interaction that I'm having with you, and I'm trying to update this with our, we'll say, a likelihood function. I'm trying to figure out, well, what is the chance that Destiny would lie this time, given that my prior is so low on lying, or my prior to telling the truth is very high. And now I look at you, I am incentivized in so many different ways to tell the truth about cutting my bridge with you, right? Like, I would get so much public feedback for it that's positive. My community would love me. I'd make YouTube videos. I'd be like, oh, Destiny, blah, 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 blah. So given all of that, at the very end, to say, well, it's plausible that he's lying about it. Well, what the fuck does that mean? Like, is it plausible? Yeah, but there's like a 0.001%. There's a plausible that anything could happen at that point, but nothing points to that. And then when you say like, well, I can't get in your head, sure, but you could just listen to what I say, right?
I don't understand what. See, here's the thing. You're
no, wait. I gotta finish. Wait, two more things. Sorry, because you just spoke for so long. Okay,
you go ahead. Yeah. Because you never interrupt. But go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I did it. I let you speak the whole time, and now if I'm gonna let you,
after I said, hey, stop interrupting me. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I know that you're saying that you can't get in my head. That's fine, but you could just go by what I say. And then boom, there you go. And then I'm also pairing that with other things that you're saying in this video so far. I'm only 20 minutes in. You said some things that are just wrong. For instance, you said that you messaged me over and over and over and over again about the JFK debate. That's not true. You messaged me twice about it on the same day that we spoke. And then after we spoke, we settled it there. That wasn't like left hanging. We both said we put it on ice. We both said we didn't do any research for it. And then boom. And then you've also made this other weird accusation that I'm telling people in private like Sneeko not to platform you anymore. That's not true. I have all of these conversations publicly.
I didn't say that you're telling him
You
in private.
literally said in the video that in secret.
You went on a stream and said, oh, the Groypers reported Mr. Girl.
Yeah, I did say that because that happened. There's videos of Big Tech doing it. I didn't say you did it.
The Big Tech doesn't speak for the Groypers. I do.
Okay,
you made it sound like when you say the Groypers reported Big Tech, do you think that Sneeko thinks, oh, a streamer on Cozy, or do you think he thinks Nick Fuentes led an effort to flag Mr. Girl? Because Sneeko's not familiar with it like we are.
I'm going to be.
As I do that when you say that.
Hold on. I'm going to be ultra charitable. I'm going to be ultra charitable and say that might be the case. No, that when I say the Groyper said something,
that's not charitable. That's just true. You know that.
Well, okay, the only reason I'm saying that is because usually when people say DGG does something, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm leading it. Some people accuse my community of things that I don't necessarily lead. Now, that's just my experience.
Let's get specific. If you go to Sneeko and say the Groypers got Mr. Girl taken down, what that comes across to him is, oh, Nick Fuentes led that.
Sure, and you know what? If you want to levy that criticism at me, that's fair.
Well, but you said that I lied about what you said.
Because you made it sound like, hold on, wait. Give me 15 seconds. Let me just listen to this so I have the quote on this. Hold on.
You know, I get where he's coming from, but it just doesn't seem to me like a strong argument. So I said, I think that he's being bad faith. I said, I think that that's a convenient excuse to tell Sneeko, hey, maybe these guys reported you. They reported Mr. Girl. Maybe they reported you, which we didn't. And ice that. And then for him to bow out of a debate that we had scheduled for earlier this week on Tuesday. We had a debate scheduled on Tuesday at 8 o'clock, which he just ghosted. He didn't come out and say, I'm not doing the debate. He just pretended like we never scheduled it.
Did I ever say, oh, I did mention the Groypers reporting Sneeko. Do you know why I said that?
No.
Because Sneeko himself told me that he's seen chat logs of Groypers joking about spam reporting him so that he moves over to Cozy faster.
Yeah, and then you said, oh, they got Mr. Girl taken down.
They did. You did. Not you, but you, the Groypers, did.
Again, what did we just go over? When you I didn't do that.
Maybe not you, but your community.
No, someone else said to his viewers, and again, we just went over this 10 seconds ago. Do you think that when you say the Groypers got Mr. Girl taken down, that, again, he's going to know someone else did it? To him, in his mind, that's me and my audience that I did that, which I didn't. And when I found out that Big Tech did that, I came on your show and said, oh, I disavowed that. That's not my position, etc.
Yeah, I understand. You keep saying that, but I don't know if that's because you truly disavow the deplatforming or if it's because you're trying to preserve our connection. I can't know that now, right? That part's been erased. I can't get into your head there because all of the incentives are going to align the same way.
If I go on my Telegram without any context and say, I don't support deplatforming, I don't support Mr. Girl being deplatformed, at that point, just like you're telling me your conspiratorial brain is leaking out. If I go on my Telegram and say, hey, I don't support deplatforming, I don't support deplatforming because XYZ, because Destiny, can't you just say, oh, well, he said he doesn't, and once again, I'm telling you now, if people do that in the future, there's going to be consequences for it, and
yeah,
so
and again,
on.
I agree, but remember the heuristic I use for reasoning out the world, right? So what is my prior on Nick Fuentes when it comes to deplatforming?
Yeah, I'm not interested in Bayesian analysis.
I understand you're not, but I'm trying to explain how I view the world, okay? My prior to that is you having a week-long fight with Mr. Medicare defending Ralph deplatforming people.
5 months ago, and has nothing to do with
You can say 5 months ago, but then my other priors involve Big Tech and the Veda guy going through his channel, and then my other prior is you spamming anti-Semitic shit, celebrating his Twitter when he got deplatformed. What am I supposed to think on all of that?
Go ahead. Hang on. So you said we're now just looping here. I know that's an expression you like to use. We're having
looping.
the same
Circling the drain is another
that
one
we said just 10 minutes ago. How we got on here from 5 minutes ago is you said you're lying about something I said, and I said, oh really? What did I lie about? You said that I told Sneeko in private to deplatform, and I said, no, I didn't say that. I said that you told Mr. Girl that the Groypers got, you told Sneeko that the Groypers got Mr. Girl banned. And you go, well, you did. And I said, no. I said, I speak for the Groypers, not Big Tech. And when you tell Sneeko that the Groypers got him banned, what the implication is to him is that was me and my audience when, as you said, it wasn't. And you said, well, if I'm being super charitable, oh, well, then he might think that. And that's not being charitable. It's not might. That is how Sneeko sees it. Sneeko doesn't know who Big Tech
hold
is.
on. Me and him both know you, and me and him know each other pretty well on our own. I'm trying to be ultra charitable to you, but if you're going to try to attack me with my charitability, then I'll just be...
I'm not attacking you.
Well, no, hold on.
Charitability.
Because then my counter to you is what I'll say, like, if you were involved in the deplatforming, I would just say that. I wouldn't say Groypers. I'd just say, Fuentes did this. So I think if Sneeko thought that you personally were involved, I probably would have just said, Nick did this. Not just the Groypers.
Well, why
right?
don't you ask him? Why don't you ask him? When you said that, when you said that, we can ask him.
Okay, the next time I'm on stream, I'll let him know. I'll ask him.
Yeah, what he thought you meant by that, because I think it's pretty. I don't even think that. I don't think that is even that difficult to understand. That,
sure, maybe, yeah. I just my overall view, and I'm only 20 minutes in, but my overall view is I just don't like that you're presenting me as being this sneaky, ulterior motive person when I'm pretty blunt and upfront with everything. When you're presenting an alternate state of mind that I don't think makes sense given the totality of all of my actions, and then you won't just take what I say at face value because you accuse me of lying.
You don't take what I say at face value, so
no, but remember. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to hammer you over the head with this. Remember our priors, okay?
Bayesian.
Yes.
So
my priors. Hold on. My priors.
Destiny.
Yes, my priors. Well, go ahead. Yeah, you do it. Actually, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm Destiny, and I don't lie. I don't say anything in bad faith. I say everything I mean. Other people don't.
No, hold on. Let's be a little bit more honest with that. So my priors as Destiny is one of the few.
Wait. But you do lie. You do lie, and you are bad faith, and I reviewed it in this stream. We went back and we watched clips from our panel with Sneeko and Jadion and all of them, and your bad faith throughout the entire thing.
Okay, wait. You're trying to pivot to a whole other topic. We can talk about this.
No, it's not. We're talking about your priors. We're talking about your
No.
Your
We can. If you want to go over that panel,
probabilistically, your likelihood to be not telling the truth,
Sure.
and that was the crux of it. If you get on later into it, throughout the panel, you're saying Nick supports non-whites being shipped back to their countries. Nick says he's a white supremacist. Nick is anti-Semitic. All these things, that's all bad faith. So if the Bayesian priors make you a perfectly honest person and me a total liar, well, I think the panel where you're calling me a white supremacist would sort of speak against that.
Okay, if you want to go through and analyze that panel, I'd love to do that, okay? I'm okay with us going through any content that you want. Number one, okay? When I talk about analyzing our priors, okay? My priors as a streamer is my integrity and my honesty are usually two of my huge selling points. People will say something like, oh, Desi's an asshole, but at least he's honest. Or, oh, I disagree with this cuck, but at least, it seems like he believes in what he's talking about. That's the reputation that I have. Now, in terms of frequency of events, there have been huge things that I've staked out strong positions on that I've gotten in trouble for. So I feel like I've got a reputation and a record, a decent frequency of events where I have been honest and truthful about things that are against the progressive narrative, and I've suffered big consequences for that. I've gotten banned from Twitter, I've gotten banned from Twitch, I've had a lot of other issues come up with like connections I've lost. That's my priors. Now, if you want to say, Destiny, you were wrong on a debate panel, just because I try to be honest. Wait, hold on. Just because I try my best to be honest and good faith doesn't mean I'm not wrong sometimes. I don't fuck up. There are absolutely things that I get wrong or fuck up, okay? But your priors are, you're literally on a stream saying things like, oh, well, you know, we use humor and irony to kind of like mask some of our beliefs and blah, blah, blah.
I didn't say that on that. You're lying right now. I didn't say that on that stream. You jumped in when I was telling them that I was on the federal no-fly list to say, oh,
I didn't say on that stream. I said in the past, you guys have talked about a sophisticated utilization of humor in order to like.
4 years ago, I said we use humor and irony to neutralize controversial topics.
Yeah, sure. Now, if you want to say now, like, oh, I don't believe in that anymore, ever, you're free to say that. Okay, so it seems like you still do believe that, which is fine, by the way. I use humor to flirt with
Believe
ideas.
what exactly? Believe what exactly? That we make jokes? I've never.
Wait, hold on. Why are you treating me with the political and humorous sophistication of a first grader? Right. The idea is you can use humor or irony.
I have never concealed my views. When have I ever once in my entire? I was in fucking Charlottesville, but I conceal my views.
Sure. What I'm saying is that.
Wait. Hang on. You just went on a big thing. Let me respond.
Okay. I didn't even finish my thing because you hijacked it with a panel. Like.
No.
Okay, hold on.
It matters. It matters. Because the point is, on the panel, because you're trying to tell me, according to Bayesian analysis, I've never lied.
No. Oh, dude, come on. That's so bad faith. Hold on. I'm muting for a second. Fuck. He's losing it. Okay. We're going to chill for 5 seconds.
There?
Hold on. I'm taking a deep breath and you take a deep breath, okay? I'm going to do it. Give us 15 seconds of deep breaths, okay? 1 sec.
All right.
Okay. Let's all chill. Okay. I took deep breaths. Okay. I've never said I've never like lied or never been long.
You didn't say that?
I said that in general I make an effort to be good faith, but go for it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So look, I didn't say that you were wrong on the panel. I said that you're bad faith. And I go over it, so, you know, if you finish that video from my show last night, we go over it. There's a clip that was posted on Twitter, it's like 15 minutes of it, where they compiled where you straight up are bad faith about not just wrong, but you just misrepresent what I say, you misrepresent my position. You go in there, for example, and
what does bad faith mean to you? Can you just describe it?
Yeah, bad here. I'll give you an example.
Or no, just tell me what bad faith means, and then you can keep talking. I just want to hear so we're on the same page. What does bad faith mean?
Bad faith means you're not stating my position as you honestly understand it.
Okay.
Okay, is that fair? Okay. So you say in the debate, Nick just wants to ship all the non-white people back to their home countries. You know that's not my position. But you said that in the debate. You also said Nick's a white supremacist. He even says that he's a white supremacist. Now, you may think I am, but I don't go out and say that. And I don't even know if you think I'm a white supremacist. I'm not. Maybe you think I am, but I don't go out and say I'm a white. I don't go out and say that. And you know I don't go out and call myself that. That's two right off the dome. That's two right off the top of my head. But you also misrepresented the phone call with that girl or whatever, where first you said, Nick said that he said having sex with minorities is the same as having sex with a dog. And everybody's like, whoa, he said that. And you said, actually, I think he said it's worse than having. And then we watched the clip, and I said, it's not the same. I said, it's not. The quote is, no, they're not the same. That's 3 examples right away.
Okay, so now let's talk.
Oh, fuck. Well, wait. So if you're talking about Bayesian, whatever, you say, because I agree. You know, you're more honest than most people on the left, and you have a reputation as being honest. But that's not to say that people can't argue in bad faith. It's not to say that people don't come up with excuses for things, which is what I'm saying. And I don't know why we're in this debate about, you know, you have no right to think that, to be skeptical of what I said. All I said is I'm skeptical, and I even put it to the audience and said, look, I don't know. He may be this, he may be that. And you're like, well, it would make no sense for me to make an excuse. Okay, fair enough. And then I said, I offered a framework. If that's the case, then this is how I can reassure you. And I said at the end, I said, so the ball's in your court. If I set up a framework where, you know, you can reasonably expect the risk of flagging to be mitigated, then there's no reason why we can't reschedule it or something. I said, but if you don't do that, then obviously that shows that there was some ulterior motive. And to me, I think that's a completely, but you're here trying to like debate me into the ground of like, well, according to probability, I tell the truth all the time. So
okay, hold on. You got to wait.
About what I'm
hold
thinking.
on. Stop. Okay. I'm treating you as best as I can in this conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Every time when you phrase my position, you make me sound like a fucking retard. I'm not saying that like I use probability to prove I never lie. And I've never said that. Okay. What I've said is that you and I seem to have different approaches to like how we conduct our rhetoric. I think you would even have agreed with that in the past. Maybe you've changed your position on it. That's what I've said. That's all I've said. And you've had different positions on things in the past. Maybe those have changed, which is fine. But I've given you an opportunity in every single conversation to clarify your point of view. Because I'm not interested, much the same as I've said a million times to the people that have come out and cried about whether or not I call you a Nazi. I don't give a fuck about attacking some shadow version or imaginary version of you. That's not what I care about. I'm always giving you an opportunity to elucidate or clarify or explain your views on things. Even when you're citing things about that panel, right? Why did that phone call come up?
It came up because people were like, well, why are you on the no-fly list? Why are you debanked? And I said, well, it's because of the fact that I'm speaking truth to power and so on.
I think it came up. Weren't people asking like, well, why don't people like you? What happened? You're like, oh, well, I speak truth to power. That's not true, Nick. There's a lot of people that speak.
True.
No, there's a lot of people that speak truth to power. People have issues with you for more specific reasons related to anti-Semitism, related to race realism, related to, like Jewish conspiratorial shit, related to statements that have been leaked from phone calls. That's the reason why I brought the phone call, because that wasn't true. That'd be like if I went onto a thing and be like, oh, why don't you people like you, Destiny? It's like, oh, well, because I'm I'm a truth sayer. That's not true. People don't like me because I'm a blunt fucking asshole.
Okay,
and sometimes I get really personal, right?
We can relitigate that debate, but
sure, I'm not trying to relitigate it. I'm just saying,
misrepresented.
No. You say I misrepresented it. I brought up the phone call, and I said and caveated multiple times. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. Let's listen to it.
No.
Nick,
you said, didn't you say that having sex with blacks is the same as having sex with a dog? And then everybody exploded laughing, and it's like, no, I didn't say that.
Hold on. I asked the question. You denied it, and I said, let's go to the actual phone call to clarify.
I didn't deny it.
Nick, hold on. This is crucial. I need you to understand this, okay? Because it's about imagining other minds. You accused me of being bad faith, and your definition of bad faith was that I was saying something that I knew wasn't true. Why would I accuse you of saying something you hadn't said and then ask all of us to listen to the phone call? Do you think I'm an idiot, or do you think that I was mistaken and I wasn't acting in bad faith?
Well, first of all,
I need you to answer that. I need you to answer that question. Because
here's why. Because here's why. Because the point has already been made. If you go out there and say, didn't you like kill your wife or something? And everybody goes, oh my gosh. Okay, I actually didn't call it. He didn't kill his wife. But if I didn't bring it up, he would have lied about it. He denied and da-da-da-da-da. So
you don't think it makes me look bad in a conversation when I quote?
And that's why, it did make you look bad, and that's why that video was put together.
But if it did make me look bad, why would I bring it up and then invite all of us to look at the source material? I can't be acting in bad faith. This is why I'm asking you to conceive of another mind.
You go and watch a clip. You don't even know what you're talking about.
I'm asking you. We don't have to watch the clip. This is what happened. We don't even disagree on the events here. I brought up a phone call that you had. I quoted it incorrectly. And then I said multiple times, let's listen to the phone call. And then we did. And it partially exonerated you.
You didn't say, what? Now you can say, I said, oh, let's listen to it. No, you said, oh, come on. Wasn't there a leaked phone call of you where you said having sex with blacks, same as having sex with dogs? And then you go, and I said, no, I did not say that. I did not say, you said, oh, I want to see this. Oh, I want to see this right now. Okay, so that's a little bit different than saying,
why would I demand?
Let's go and take a look at the call.
Why would I demand to see the phone call?
You were trying to call me a liar. You're trying to call me because I said, I didn't say that, and you said, oh, really? Let's look at the tape. And then,
okay, I'm asking you.
Wait. Then once we played back the tape, you pretended like that didn't even happen. You were like, oh, well, whatever. Well, you were even going to bring it up, and you lied about it anyway.
So I'm asking you because you accused me of being in bad faith. What I'm trying to point out is that your model of my mind doesn't make sense. If I was acting in bad faith, that would mean that by your definition, which I agree with, I was saying something that I knew wasn't true. If that was the case, that I was thinking that it wasn't true, why the fuck would I ever want to have that phone call play on stream?
I'm saying you were indifferent to the truth of it in that moment.
No, I was literally pursuing. I was one of the people pushing on that call. In fact, if I wasn't, I don't even know if we would have listened to that phone call. I could have said, oh, fuck it, because I don't even know if you were pushing to listen to the phone call, because I think you probably thought it made you look a little bit bad. But I'm pretty sure, and now I could go back and look, and maybe I'm wrong on this. You can tell me, or we can watch it together. But I'm pretty sure I was the one that pushed to let's listen to the actual phone call on stream. Why would I do that if I'm acting in bad faith? Nick.
Yeah, the good thing is, fortunately, we have a recording of it. So you could go back and you could watch the whole thing. There's 15 minutes of bad faith like this where you not only do you do that, and you're restating it so differently, and this is what you do. You can come on this call and say, well, I was pushing to hear the recording to clear your name.
No, I didn't say to clear your name. I said it was to figure out the
That's how
fact
you're
of the
making
matter.
it sound. That's how you're going.
I'm trying to attack you. Hold on. No, stop. Now you're acting in bad faith. I'm literally attacking you on that panel.
I'm not acting in bad faith.
Hold on. I'm attacking you on the panel. I'm not trying to play an audio to clear your name. I'm trying to play the audio because I thought it supported what I said, because I'm not acting in bad faith.
I know, and you are, okay. But the point is, you're indifferent. You come on there to say those things basically to make me look bad.
Yes,
Basically,
I'm not denying that. Of course, that was my goal, was to go on and elucidate your views to make you look more extreme than I thought you were presenting yourself. Yeah, that was my point.
No, to make me look bad in front of the when you say that.
I agree. That was my goal.
In front of the black people. Saying things to make somebody look bad is not good faith. That's not trying to elucidate somebody's arguments, because the question was, why do you think that everybody hates you so much? Now, if you said, why do liberals hate you so much? I would say something like, oh, well, liberals think I'm racist. Liberals think I'm this because I say controversial things. But in the context of why are you banned from banks and airlines? It's not because 5 years ago I was secretly recorded saying that interracial sex is degenerate. The reason that I'm banned from all those things, and PayPal and Patreon, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of it has to do with the fact not just that I say things that are insensitive, but things that are challenging to the status quo, things that are challenging to the mainstream liberal consensus. And so in other words, I'm giving, if you look
but
at
that's
the frame
not
of
what
my
you
mind,
just said isn't true. You know that's not true. Your
What are you
appearance
talking
at like the White House, your appearance at Charlottesville, these things are probably more aligned with why you're getting revoked from places rather than speaking truth to power.
Yeah, and the reason, but I didn't do anything illegal in any of those places.
Doesn't matter. You don't need to do anything illegal to get no-fly listed. You don't need to do anything illegal to get delisted from a bank. Why are you saying that? We both know that's not true.
Wait. So if I didn't do anything illegal, then what would be the reason for those repercussions? If it wasn't my actions, what would it be? My words?
My guess is that when people see ultra extremist rhetoric from the right, they probably want to.
Words.
Yeah, words. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said I get banned because of the things that I say. Because
no.
I speak truth to power.
But when you say speak truth to power, that could mean a million different things. There's a lot of people that speak truth to power that don't get deplatformed. Obviously, there's something a little bit more going on. You know that. I don't know why I'm arguing with you. You're like
out there speaking.
I feel like I'm arguing with Vosh. You're like talking to the audience, and I'm like talking to you.
I'm not talking to the audience.
You are. We both know that you didn't get banned for speaking truth to power. It's because of fucking creepy Jewish shit and because of the events you've been at. That's the reason why.
Creepy Jewish.
That's the reason why. We both know that, right?
The problem here, you take a look at the mental image of my mind. Here
sure. Okay. Go for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you think that when I go on a platform and say, well, I got banned for speaking truth to power, do you think in the back of my mind I'm thinking, no, I'm concealing the fact that I really got banned for saying something 5 years ago?
Yeah, wait, can I explain what I think your mental state of mind is, and then you could tell me if I'm right or wrong? Okay?
Yeah, totally.
This is your mental state of mind. When you're invited to a podcast with people that don't know about your positions, there's a spectrum from 0 to 100 where like 50 is the most accurate version, 100 is the most exaggerated version, and 0 is like the most charitable version that you can give relating to what's happened to you in the past for things. When you go on a panel where nobody knows you, your goal is to give the 0 position on everything. Why were you banned? Well, I was speaking truth to power. Is that technically true? Kind of. I think that the people in power are the Jews. Okay, well, I guess it's kind of true, right? Your goal is to present things as digestibly as possible because you want people to hear the reasons why you've been kicked off platforms, and you want people to sympathize with you. Like, I got kicked off for just words. I got kicked off for just speech. I didn't do anything illegal. Those things are all true, but they don't really get at the heart of why people don't like you. And you know that. You know there are lots of people that speak truth to power. You know there are lots of people that challenge the power structures that don't have any of these problems. And you know the reasons why people attack you are more to do with anti-Semitic things you've said, racially charged things you've said, and then events that you've been at. But if you give those events right off the start, you know that people are going to be far less sympathetic to who you are.
Okay, yeah. If I can rebut, because that's very easy to rebut. If you think that, and we can talk about, I want to say, and on the general level, you're saying that the model of my mind is that when I go onto a panel like this, my goal is to present my views as 0 instead of 100. Present them in a digestible, inoffensive way rather than the most. Okay. Well, when I first called Sneeko, the first time we streamed, the first thing we talked about, he goes, "What do you think of the Jews?" And I was like, well, they drink blood and they do human sacrifices and blah, blah, blah. So that's just like demonstrably not true. The first call I had with Sneeko, he said, what's the craziest conspiracy you believe in? I said, read Blood Passover by Ariel Toph, which is about how Jews would harvest Christian blood in the Middle Ages. Like that was off the rip. He's like, what do you think about race? I'm like, well, I think the races have different IQs. And he's like, oh, come on, Nick, you think I'm dumb because I'm Haitian? I'm like, no. I said, but, on average, Haitians have lower IQs than whites. So that's not 0 at all. We're on that stream talking about all that kind of stuff. Now, what you're saying is very different. What you're trying to argue is that, I get what you're saying. Like, well, I don't go on the show and say, well, the ADL says this about me, but I think the ADL is lying about me. So I'm not going to go and say, well, the real reason is because I'm an anti-Semite that, and I'm an extremist Nazi and blah, and I'm just like, or I'm a grifter or whatever, because those are lies and those are not true. I'm not going to go and regurgitate what the critics say as they lie about me to deplatform me. I'm going to give my model the world. And what you say is controversial, anti-Semitic, whatever. I say speaking truth to power because, the ADL is a Jewish organization and they're a trusted flagger for Facebook and YouTube and they create the moderation policies. So if I'm out there, what you say is anti-Semitism. If I'm talking about Jewish power, well, the Jewish people that create the content guidelines get the social media companies to ban me for saying those things. So, just because I don't agree with your worldview doesn't mean I'm misrepresenting it. I disagree with your worldview. That's not true to me. So
sure, I understand, but I disagree with the worldview of people that attack me. But if somebody says, why don't people like you? Or why don't for instance, when people ask me about my Twitch ban, I don't say, why did you get banned from Twitch? I don't say because some activists hate me. I would never say that. The reason why I got banned... No, it's not true. What's true is it's one of two things. It's either one, I stated a position that trans women shouldn't compete with cis women, which is a violation of one part of the TOS, or they flagged me for some insult, and I just don't know. That's the reason that I give. But if I were to just come and say it's because there are activists that hate me, I make myself look really good. I engender sympathy for myself, and I get people to support me, but I'm not actually telling people why people don't like me, and I know I'm not. I know that when I say that, I'm trying to evoke an image of their mind of me being a victim, being attacked by these activists. Well, no, that's not true. That's not why people got mad at me. That's all I'm saying. But maybe we just disagree on how you present yourself. But
I'm going to try and make myself look good, and you admitted you're on there to make me look bad.
Well, I'm on there to pull you a little bit back to reality. Let's say that I was on a panel. Let's say you were a much bigger figure, and I get invited to some panel with a bunch of fucking Christians or whatever, and I go on to this panel. They're popular. They're part of the monarch that you want. All these Christians, and I go onto the panel, and they're talking to me well, Destiny, what do you think about living life and blah blah blah? And I'm like, you know what? I think that a man and a woman being together is the way that we ought to live. I think that these are the way families should be structured. These are the values we should all strive for. And all of them are vibing hard with me and yeah, this is true. Their fans are typing in chat oh my God, praise be unto him. This is good. Blah. I think if you saw that and you were hold on, this is fucking bullshit, and you called one of them bring me on. You're Destiny, aren't you in an open relationship? Aren't you a fucking bisexual fucking I think you would be within your right to come on and pin me down on that because you see that I'm half presenting all of my views to the audience to win them over. And I think that you could rightfully be upset when you're okay, well, hold on, fuck, Destiny's fucking lying through his teeth about the shit that he believes here. I'm going to go and hold him to account on this panel. And if you were to do that, I think that'd be fair. Yeah, sure, I can understand that. No?
Well, I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't go out of my way to try and make my friend look bad. Okay, I wouldn't go on there to piss all over your moment and whatever. I'd be based. You know as well as I do that if I saw you on a panel and you were saying I think it should be a man and a woman and I was reacting to it, I would be based? Destiny's based now? That would be my unironic reaction. It wouldn't be I can't let this guy preach to that many people and jump on and be didn't you,
I think if you had like more like mainstream platforms that you were on, and you saw that I was like getting widespread appeal, I think you would be doing react videos where you would be breaking down what I was saying, and you'd be saying like, hold on, Destiny's misrepresenting this, or like he's tricking people about this thing that he believes. I think you'd be doing that in a similar way we've done it here. You're almost doing it in this video where you're saying like, well, Destiny's lying about these things. Like, I'm going to tell you guys what his real motivation is, what his real thoughts are. Like, I think you'd be doing that 100%.
Because it pertains to me. It pertains to me, and I didn't even say he's lying. I said he's skeptical, and you can be the judge. Because see, I guess the difference is like, I'm not like, if you are out there and I perceive you, because I don't misrepresent my positions. I say my positions openly. The other night on my show, I went out there and said the only way to the truth is through Jesus, and Jews hate Jesus. So how are they going to get to the truth? Like, that's not. There's no concealment. If you want to know my real views, they're on my show every night. So I don't think I'm misrepresenting, but I also am not going to rush out there and like, if you're going on a stream and you're spinning your liberal whatever, I'm not going to jump out there and get in the middle of it. I think that people should be able to express their views. Now, I react to it on my stream and say, well, here's what I think is wrong. Here's what I think is right. But I don't feel the need to like nanny everybody and say, wait, guys, he's lying to you. He's blah, blah, blah. Shut up. You can't say that. You need to, I'm going to hold you. I'm going to pin you down and hold you to account. Pause. I'm going to pin you down and hold, I feel like people should be able to express themselves, and then there can be an answer. But you felt the need to like jump in and interrupt me and be like, throw in a bunch of shit that makes me look bad. Call me, oh, he says he's a white supremacist. He wants to send you back to Africa. Like, that's not even true. He jumped down there to just basically, and that's not my position, misrepresent.
I would have to go back. I can't trust anything you tell me because you misrepresent fucking everything. So I'd have to go back and look. Well, because you did about the phone call. Like, you're lying there. I'm the one that pushed for us to listen to that while you simultaneously.
I said you misrepresented that.
No, what? You're saying that like I am bad faith quoting a phone call, but then simultaneously asking us to listen to the phone call. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, you unintentionally misrepresented it, but you did.
If I'm unintentionally misrepresenting it, that's not bad faith. That's just me being wrong about something, which I am a lot. I don't remember every fucking conversation you've ever had, or even every conversation we've ever had. But if you agree with that, I'm totally fine with you believing that, by the way, because I'm wrong about a lot of things.
Lied about the call, but I didn't, and I'm not, maybe you didn't lie, but you said, you just said 5 seconds ago, you said you lied about the call. I didn't lie about the call at all. I didn't deny the call happened. I said that what
No, wait, I'm sorry, hold on, wait, let me clear. When I said,
you did misrepresent it.
When I said you lied about the call, I didn't mean that you lied about the call on the panel. I mean that in our conversation right now, you lied about how you represented that call. That's what I was saying.
What do you mean I didn't lie about how I represented it?
That you're saying that I did something in bad faith and I was bringing up that call to expose you, but those two things can't be true simultaneously. I would never bring up I wouldn't bring up a call to expose you if I was acting in bad faith, because it makes me look bad. It makes me look wrong. And you even agreed that it made me look bad when I brought it up. So why would I demand we listen to it if it's going to make me look bad?
Yeah, you can. Well, and you can go and watch a clip. I don't think that's good faith. You can, in tone matters. And you have a tendency to do this where you'll say, well, no. What I said was this. And it's like in the IQ thing. You're like, might there maybe be some teeny little differences between people? Sure. But I don't think anybody knows definitively which. And this
you're even misrepresenting. You're even misrepresenting. Okay, if you want to talk about IQ,
to make a point. Sure. It's to make a point.
No, oh come on. You can't say to make a point. I'm gonna make you sound like a retard. Okay, that's bullshit. Okay, I try not to represent your views in that way.
I don't need to make you sound. When you say IQ, listen. No offense, but when you say IQ is inheritable because a girl learned how to play chess,
look at how you're framing
it's
my.
Retarded.
When you say that, you know that you're not framing my shit at all accurately, right?
Is that not what you said? You said it makes me you said, well, we can't know how much
hold on.
Genetic,
no.
Here's what makes me
I didn't
think.
even say we can't know. I said that it's I said we don't know. I said there's a ton of research, Nick. You don't even know my position. Nick, hold on.
I just watched it and read it verbatim yesterday. You said, well, I don't think anyone has done enough research to say definitively because there's so many genes. How much of IQ is determined by genetics. That's what you said.
Yeah, that's closer. Thank you. That's closer. There's like 150 to 200 genes we've identified that contribute to IQ, I think. And trying to measure the differences in population groups as being, the difference in IQ as being attributable to genes, that's like, I don't think the research is there to prove that yet. There's been a ton of research on IQ and intelligence, but that's a really challenging thing to prove, right? Just like economics is, all the soft sciences are like challenging things. When you get into these highly multivariate, that's what I've said. And to say that like, oh, well, you think IQ isn't heritable or the differences aren't proven because girls play chess. Come on.
And then you said, well, because right after that, you said, because they said, well, can you guess? Can you guess how much of the variance is due to genetics? And you said, I don't know. And he said, like, oh, come on. And you said, well, you're trying to make it sound like I secretly believe it's IQ. You said, but here's what makes me think. And you tell this sad little anecdote about how twin girls were taught how to play chess, and that is and you said, well, that makes me think what? That because of this anecdotal story, like genetics matter a lot less than we think they do. That's what. Okay, so I'm not really misstating. I may be saying it in a way that is exaggerating it, but I mean it's pretty fucking close to what you said. You said I have this anecdote that says
you're exaggerating it like so much though that it makes my position sound completely absurd. Right? It wasn't even a sad little anecdote. It was the idea that there was a man who believed hardcore that anybody can do anything given the right environment, which is a radical position, probably more radical than I would agree. He had 2 daughters, and he determined from birth that they were going to be master chess players. And
I know the anecdote.
My understanding. Well, now I'm going to restate it because you made it sound retarded. Okay. My understanding is that the Polgar sisters were the only women in chess history that were competitive with male grandmaster players. That's not just a random sad little anecdote.
That's an anecdote.
Okay.
Is it an anecdote?
Not really. No, I would call it a case study. But you can call it an anecdote if you want, but it's something I think.
It is.
But there's that.
Definition.
There's the differences in instruments that men and women play.
Did you do it? Is that a study, or because I believe what you said is you could Google, which implies that there's no you didn't take.
Hold on.
A study
Why are you
of that.
turning into Vosh here? Have I done a study on how many rock bands have female guitar players? Nick, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't.
Didn't.
Do you think I need to do a study on that, Nick? How many famous rock bands have female guitar players? I don't have the research on that one, Nick. I'm sorry.
You can say you can restate. Okay, you can restate it in a condescending way and say, "Oh, do I need to do a study?" But what I'm saying is like that's not evidence. You can't say, "Well, there was this anecdote about chess players, and also I think that there's not a lot of female rock guitarists, and I think there's a lot of female violinists that are really good, or I've seen a really good female." The point is, like, none of this has the necessary rigor to constitute an argument. And you're throwing these out there
It's
a case study. And then there's the guitar thing, which I didn't, which isn't even.
So this I'm glad you say this. This illustrates the difference between you and I, okay? When it comes to the differences in populations for IQ, I'm agnostic on it. It could totally be the case that a lot of the differences between different African tribes and different Western people, that actually might be largely driven by a biological genetic reality that is immovable or unfixable with any level of education. I'm willing to say that that's a potential, but you want to stick a hard position on it. I don't think the evidence is there. And then when you ask me why, and I bring up, you can call the highest rated female chess player of all time a single anecdote, but it's not like she got that rating from one lucky game. Both of those sisters were like 2 of the best female chess players of all time. That makes me wonder. And then when you look at things like women and the differences between who plays what instruments, I don't have a study to prove it. I hate to do the fucking weird argument, but you can go to YouTube and you can Google like violin player woman, piano player woman, or whatever, and you can see these world famous female violinists, violists, piano players, jazz piano players, and everything. And then you can see that when you Google for like guitar players that are women and bands, there's like 2. Right? And that there's no reason why a woman can play piano but can't play guitar. That's socially driven. But even at that, even at that, I'm not saying, oh, therefore, because of these things, I know for a fact that it's all environmental and it can't be genetic. All I'm saying is I've seen some things that are really surprising to me, and they make me be cautious when I enter these highly complicated fields where I'm reticent, I think is a word, to give a strong opinion about like, oh, it must be environmental, it must be genetically driven. I just don't feel comfortable saying that. And I think that my reasons for having pause there are good enough. I'm sorry that I don't have a study proving how many hair metal band players have women on drums.
Yeah, well, you should be sorry because it's weak ass. That is such a weak ass argument. And let me ask you this because I'm just curious. Do you think that there are? Because what I noticed on that interview is he asked you, do you think that there are? Because what I noticed on that interview is he asked you, do you think that there are differences in IQ between the races. And the question you answered was like where those differences may come from. Do you think that there are IQ differences between the races?
Well, there absolutely are. That's measurable and tested. That's
okay.
true.
I just want an answer on that because that was the question.
Hold on. I've never ducked that question at all.
Okay.
Obviously, like we can just look at the data on that, of course. But that's not the interesting question. The interesting question is where do those differences come from?
Where does it come from? Yeah, I know. And I just, but this is what I said last night. It's like, I just think that this argument, like, oh, it's just so complicated. Like we can't know. You don't even want to guess based on what you've seen. I just think that is so lame that it has to be the case that, like, because I don't think he really believes such a lame argument of like, well, we just can't possibly know, and what makes me reticent to make a determination or make a guess is because of this anecdote and because of this musical phenomenon with girl violin players or something. I think that's so lame that it has to be the case that you on some level, like you just said, you might be willing to admit that genetics are account significantly for IQ differences that are baked into the cake, that are immovable, and so on. I mean, maybe you really do just believe it, but I just find that to be such a sort of paltry cop-out to say, well, there's so many genes that account for IQ, and we just can't even possibly, because I'm not saying that environment plays no effect. I'm not saying that I'm not a genetic determinist. I'm a race determinist. I think that it's a combination of environment and IQ, or rather environment and genetics as well, that shape IQ. But you're the one that's out here saying like, oh, I'm not a race realist. I don't believe in these. Or rather, no one can possibly say. It's like, really, we can't say that racial differences are caused by genetics. How about skin color? That's caused by genetics. How about stature? How about
nobody's
skull shape?
I've never said any of this.
Okay, well, and how is IQ different?
Because IQ is a highly polygenetic trait. I don't know if the amount of melanin
Aren't all those other things polygenetic?
Melanin in the skin and height, I don't know if that's it, if those are traits that are controlled for by as many genes as IQ is.
Okay. So that's pretty weak, man.
Well, okay. Do you know? Here's
Here's
what I've read in my research, that there are some 150 to 200 plus genes that have been identified as all being small contributors to a person's IQ. All right, how many genes control for height?
I don't know, but do you think it's one?
I don't know, but it might be like 5 or 10.
All right, well, but the point is, see, you don't know. And you haven't even asked us, you haven't even Googled it, which that tells me you reached a stopping point. You got to a certain point and stopped. You said it's an interesting question.
How much research have you done on stream about this stuff?
I haven't done. Well, here's the thing. I haven't done a ton of research on
Wait, then why are you accusing me? We literally watched a whole 15-hour lecture series on fucking human biology, and we went through a ton of different studies, and we had a ton of different research on my stream. I've done more research on this than you have. Why are you accusing me of being ideologically driven in bad faith?
Because here's the thing. I look at in the same way that you look at these, differences between the people, and you say, you come up with this thing about anecdote. Well, there's just too many genes, and how about these girl chess players, and how about these girl violinists? I look at the disparities around the world, and I look at the fact that IQ, SAT scores, income, wealth, as well as the wealth of the nations, they all follow the same pattern. Asians are the lowest in criminality. Asians are the highest IQ, highest SAT scores. Asians, in terms of not this last 500 years, because there's some historical factors, they're on track to become the wealthiest civilization in this century. It tracks the wealth of nations, all these things, from Asian, white, Hispanic, down to black. Now, to me, I look at that and say, that's good enough for me to say that there are just some differences that are baked in. I believe in the generality. I believe in stereotypes, generalizations, things like that. You're out here saying like, well, we can't know. I don't know. And I think that when you look at these disparities, you refute. You say, well, that they're not. I'm willing to say there's genetics. There's genetics as well as environment. When asked about it, I mean,
when have I ever said anything different? Saying that it's genetics and environment is the most boring non-answer ever. Everybody would admit to that. Alt-Hype and Sean Last or whatever would admit to that. The question is, do you think it's like 90% genes and 10% environment, or 90% environment and 10% genes? That's the interesting question. You're not making any valuable.
They're both significant. And what you go out on you said the same thing. You go out on your show and you say, well, the real question is, or you said rather the real answer is that IQ is determined by 200 different genes. And for that reason, nobody's possibly done enough research to definitively say how much it is. So, I mean, you're saying you're making a weaker statement than I am.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I do make a really weak statement here because I don't think the research is settled. It's a super hotly researched field, and it's a really complicated field of research.
But yet you draw ideological conclusions about...
What ideological conclusion do I draw when I'm agnostic on it?
Because you're going out there and saying, well, the race realists believe that, people have Chinese have a math gene, and blacks have a warrior gene, and Jews have a Jew gene, and that's racist.
Hold on. Do you believe that black people are genetically predisposed to violence?
I do, yeah.
So then you do believe that. Why are you criticizing me as accurately summarizing your views? Do you believe that Asian people are genetically predisposed? Okay, so you don't even disagree with what I'm saying.
But then you go and say that based on that makes you've called me a white supremacist for this.
When was the last time I called you a white supremacist?
On the Sneeko panel.
Okay, I would have to go back and look at that. If I said it seriously, I might have misspoke because it seems like you don't believe in white supremacy right now. You're more of like a soft white separatist.
I never did.
I don't know about that, but okay, maybe not, maybe never. I would have to go back and dig through our older content, but I would say you're like a soft white separatist is where I would put you guys right now.
I don't know if I would say white separatist.
Soft white separatist. You want to maintain white majorities in the United States, probably tailor the immigration standards to skin color.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I like
sure,
that.
yeah. Soft white separatist.
You prefer the term white advocate.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. So you say that you're open-minded about the idea that race is large, or rather IQ and race, or rather differences between the races are largely genetic. You're open if you saw evidence that could be true?
I'm open to, anything. My mind can be swayed on anything, yeah.
All right. Well, hey, then I take your word for it, okay? I just said on the stream that when I hear you say this anecdote, I'm like, to me, what that sounds like, and I'm not Bayesian analyzing it. I'm saying what that sounds like is you sort of reach a stopping point and you sort of walked away. And it was sort of like, okay, because when I bring up and say, is height because I'm not making the argument that IQ is polygenetic and therefore, we can't know how much it accounts for the variance. You're saying that. But to me, the natural follow-up is, what about these other observable racial differences? Are they polygenetic? Are they as polygenetic?
The problem is that, and the problem is just that like stats are really complicated and really hard. And with all the digging I've done in medical research, like there is a lot of unbelievable correlations that can be explained by confounding variables or explained by other things that are like leaving ghosts in data and shit. So I would just never make a strong statement like that unless I felt like. And again, this is like you agree that this is a hotly contested area of research, right? That there's a lot of research that points in a lot of different directions for this type of stuff. And that,
yeah, I'll say that.
Sure. Okay, so my position is usually on stuff like that. Usually I'm agnostic. But when it comes to policy, and I think I had a conversation with somebody like this like a day or two ago, I'll literally say like we should just follow the policies at work. Like affirmative action, it seems like a loser of a policy. I don't support that. I don't care if IQ is racially driven or socially driven. It seems like a policy that doesn't work, regardless. So like even when it comes to policies, I'm willing to follow the data. It's not like I'm ideologically positioned on my political policies.
Here's the thing, though. We need to interpret it because, we can't just go with the efficacy of policy, and here's why. Take affirmative action as an example. If let's take for the sake of example that black people just have a very low average IQ. And so what that means is you're going to have a lot of low IQ black people in America, like probably most of them. And without affirmative action, Tucker Carlson talks about we want a colorblind meritocracy, which I think you would probably agree with something like that. Here's the problem. If that is true about, they can't overcome, there's not these, with or without the confounding variables, there's these immovable impediment to their success. It's like, then they're like all just going to be poor forever. And like, they're going to notice that. They're going to notice that they're poor and that other people are not. They're going to notice that there's no mobility and there's this sort of like intractable impediment to their success. And they're going to get mad. They're going to get pissed off. They're going to get resentful. This is where, we need to look at society not in terms of like, because I would probably agree with you on a lot of things, But we have to have these kinds of considerations for society. That's why
I agree.
it calls for interpretation.
Sure.
That's why it calls
But
for...
here's this is my question, and this is why I wonder. Now, I'm going to divine a little bit from your head, and this is an assumption that I make, so you correct me if I'm wrong. If you truly worried this much about things like IQ, why wouldn't you just focus on IQ? Why wouldn't we make statements like, when we do immigration policy, we should just give IQ tests? I want to have high IQ black people in this country, and I want to get rid of low IQ white people. Why is it okay to keep low IQ white people and keep out high IQ black people?
I'm not an IQ nationalist. The only reason I bring up IQ, because this is the difference. The alt-right used to argue that, well, you have these low IQ races and that's why they got to go, or something like that. They're not come into America, or something like that. I've never argued that the reason why, like, that IQ has salience in the immigration debate, because I don't, you know the book very well, We Wanted Workers by Borjas, and that comes from the expression, I think, by a German who says that we wanted workers, we got people. And IQ is really a question of productivity. It's also a question of some other things, but it's similar. I'm not thinking about immigration in terms of workers and productivity. I'm thinking in terms of people. And what that means is the kind of other habits and cultural habits and those things that transcend their,
Okay, so then you don't care about IQ at all. You're thinking culture.
No, I'm not saying that I don't. It's not saying that I don't care about it, but it's to say, what's the salience of IQ? The salience is, there are these disparities that you acknowledge in IQ. There's disparities in income, wealth, and the conventional way to look at them is, well, if all things being equal, if everyone's equal, then there's no reason, or maybe, well, the only reason why people would wind up wildly unequal in groups is because something happened in the middle. If they started equal, wound up unequal, there's two ways to explain this. They started off from a lower starting point due to historical reasons like slavery or redlining or discrimination or Jim Crow, or something happened in the middle where they were discriminated against, or this, and that's why we need corrective action, we need affirmative action, so on. But there's another hypothesis. That's the alternative hypothesis, is that maybe these differences are baked into the cake. And if that's the case, then obviously a colorblind meritocracy is going to be an unbelievably cruel policy.
Sure,
right?
that might be the case, but none of the rhetoric comes off sounding this way. And again, if you want to say then that you want to totally jettison the IQ argument and you don't give a fuck about IQ at all, that's fine. And you can say that, like, well, I think that culture is some sort of like abstract thing that emerges from different like genetic populations. So that's why I want people that look like me, because I think we have similar genetic backgrounds. That is problems, but I'll say that's fine. But even if it was the case that I grant you all of this, and then I say that like different genetic realities are created in the country because of differences like biologically between groups of people, I still don't hear this advocacy for like, well, if somebody tests at 85 IQ, we need more welfare for them. I've just never heard that advocacy before.
Well, what I've said on my show is this, like, if the differences are baked in there, then we've got to approach the problem differently. And but
those differences could be baked into like low IQ white people as well. I just never hear this brought up as a policy matter. I just hear it as a way to exclude groups of people from the United States. But then when I push you on like, well, what about other types of people who could come in that are low IQ or could come in that are high IQ? It seems like we go back to the race thing. Like we're just kind of like circling back and forth. If you truly don't give a fuck about IQ, that's fine. But then when we look inside the United States, you say, well, the reason why we do care about IQ or differences in groups is because if we can't use IQ, then we have to say that, like, well, groups of people might be left behind because of biological realities, and you're trying to blame societal factors, and now we've got to change the societal factors, but it might never change what's going on because we have this alternative hypothesis. Okay, that's fine. But I never hear policy that's directed in that direction. That's the issue.
That's what I argue all day long.
Okay, so you argue that, like, we need to be more kind towards, like, low IQ people in society. We need to have policies that, like, redistribute wealth or make living situations for people with low IQ. These are things you talk about on your show?
I didn't say we need to be more kind to them. I said we need to start throwing them. We need to start throwing these criminals in jail.
No, we're not talking criminals. Just like dumb low IQ people. What do we do with them?
Well, it's not. Well, then we've got to take care of them. Yeah, we've got to take care of them. We have to send in the National Guard into their community to restore order, and then there needs to be a real project, I think, to lift these people up. Absolutely.
Okay, these people include like low IQ white people as well, right? It's not just black people.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. It's just the criminality happens to be a black problem, and I think that is not necessarily IQ, although that's probably part of it, but it's those other genetic differences. The point is, the IQ and these other arguments, they possess explaining power. That's why I'm interested in them. I'm interested in them because they have explaining power about, that is the question. Inequality is the question of the last 10 or 30 or 50 years. Income inequality, racial inequality, and like you would agree, that's a central question of the political discourse. And you've got people on the left saying the inequality arises from discrimination and racism and historical disadvantage. And you've got people on the right that are saying it's because of big government, or, I don't know, some other
the issue that I have with all of these arguments, I think they're all equally retarded on the left and right. I think that the left want to focus or fixate on history because they like to jerk themselves off for it. The right like to focus or fixate on other things so they can jerk themselves off for it. I think that if you're an intelligent person, regardless of where you believe the issues come from, we should probably look at policies that try to fix these issues, and then if they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. If we think that a lot of it is environmental, since that's usually what we can affect with policy, then we try to change that. If we think that the changes, and if that doesn't work, then we look to other ways to rectify changes. So some people just literally can't be computer programmers or whatever, then you fucking boost their welfare based on IQ test or some shit like that. I just don't ever hear people having those types of conversations. It seems like these arguments are just vehicles for your other political discourse. You don't actually give a fuck about the people involved. That's what I feel like. That's the feeling that I get. But
yeah, and I guess to me, I'm not like I don't have like a very strong like humanitarian streak or whatever, but I'm more interested in again, the explanatory power of those things. And because you're right, I'm not going into my show every night. I'm like, well, here's like a policy that I researched that will help this category. I'm more interested in, you've got this massive propaganda machine saying white supremacy, white racism, whatever, and I'm out here saying, no, it's not because of that. You can't blame white people for disparities that are baked in, or rather the iniquities imposed on other races historically by whites, because there's this other, I'm not going out there and saying so therefore, but I'm saying like, look, this is why things are the way they are. Not to say these people are inferior, keep them down or keep them out. I'm saying like, look, we have this crazy world with all this inequality, people's being smashed into each other due to globalization, creating unprecedented potential for conflict due to these exposures. How do we have these disparities? How do we cool the temperature down?
Sure.
Okay, you get it.
Okay. Do you have any final words or thoughts for us?
No. Well, that was a good convo, right? I think that was.